Hey guys, what's up? Today we're taking a look at Terror Below, a game published by Renegade Game Studios and designed by Mike Elliott, and this plays 1 to 5 players. So in this game, you are in the Nevada desert where a lot of strange things have been happening. There's a lot of rumbling going on that feels like earthquakes, but it's not from earthquakes, it's actually from giant worms. And these worms are government experiments that have gone wrong. So you're going to be going around collecting various worm eggs, and let me just say, these worm eggs are really cool. So you're going to be collecting worm eggs and delivering them to different locations, and you're going to be hunting down and killing vicious worms. So let's see how this game plays. Alright, so let's go over the setup. So you have the board in the middle, and then you're going to place these location tiles in these exact locations here. And then you're going to have a bunch of different decks. You'll have the bounty deck cards right here, and you'll put out 4 in these corresponding places here. Then you'll have some character cards, some special item cards, which you'll put these next to the general store. The weapon deck, which you'll put next to the state police. And then you have a bunch of these standees, which are just for decor, they're not really part of the game. And then you got a bunch of supplies of eggs, rubble. We'll be going over shortly about the player pawns, and you have dice, and you have the worm deck. With the worm deck, you're going to actually take out the 4 starting worms, which are the black border. And then you will put these corresponding targets on these locations here. They're the 1, 2, and 3. So that's the general setup. Let's go over the player setup. So each player is going to take a pawn of their color and a player aid, and there's these different car vehicles. So let's just pick blue to start here. And then each player will also get 1 weapon card from the deck and 1 item card. And each player is going to draw 3 character cards, and you're going to choose one that you want to start, and you're going to place that on the top like this, and then you'll put that in your play area. Then each player will also grab 3 vehicle cards as their starting hand. Alright, so let's talk about these worm cards first here. So these worm cards have different worms and different colors, and these colors correspond with the different eggs that we have in the supply. Now, when a worm card is first revealed, it is placed into an open numbered spot on the terror zone, which is located here. And the matching target token will be placed out onto the board with the starting coordinates listed on the card. So let's say that this card was revealed and it was put in this spot here. Then you will put this target token on the board on the location 6-3. So like we said, this is 6-3, so you're going to find the blue 6, which is up here, and then you're going to find the red 3, and the location is here. When a worm eventually attacks, this target token is going to represent the center space on the grid shown on the worm card. So the worm card shows right here that egg spot is the center space, and that corresponds with this target token. So if this worm attacked, then you're going to put the egg at that center location. So I will remove this token and put it back, and I'll put the corresponding egg, so this is an orange one, at the center location. And then following the shaded areas on this card, I will put rubble out corresponding to those shaded areas. So we're going to put the rubble out in the shaded areas, so it will go 1 all the way around based off of this shaded card. So a rubble will go there, a rubble will go here. If there's already a rubble there, you can go ahead and place out another rubble. There just can only be a max of 2. And then I'll put another rubble here. Now, rubble and eggs cannot go on location tiles. And if you were to go off the board, like in this scenario, then you just simply do not place the rubble. So now let's go over the starting worm cards, which had the black borders. Now in a 3 the 3-player game, you're actually going to draw an additional worm card to your starting worm card hand. And if you're doing a 4 or 5-player, you'll draw additional cards. So what you're going to do now is resolve a worm attack for each of these starting cards to get the game board set up. So let's just do one example here. So we'll do the boomer. The coordinates are 3, 4, and it's an orange egg. So we are doing an attack. So let's see, 3 and 4. So you'll put an egg there at that location and rubble all around. So we'll put rubble there, there, basically all around the egg. And that will be that worm card that you just set up. And then you'll do the same thing for all these other worm cards to start. So after doing all of the starting worm cards, this is what a board could look like to start. After resolving all of the initial worm attacks out on the board like we just did, we will now put out the worm cards in the terror zone, starting with the left side, and you'll just keep filling these areas up. And then you're going to take the target tokens of these cards you just put out and put it in those locations. So the blaster, I put on 3 and 4, so there. The boomer, 2 and 6, which is all the way over here. And the screamer, which is 4 and 5, which is here. And then each player is going to grab their pawn and choose a location to start. So starting with the last player, and then each player will place out their vehicle, and you can't have multiple players at the same location. Everyone has to choose a different location to start. So players are going to be taking turns back and forth, and each player will have a turn sequence of 3 main steps. It's going to be playing a vehicle card on a worm, resolve the card, and then refill your hand to 3 cards. So on your turn first, you're going to get your vehicle cards and choose one to play. So we're going to choose this one. And you're going to place this on one of these spots below one of these worm cards. Now, there are only a certain number of vehicle cards that can be placed underneath a worm card, and that is noted on the bottom right hand of each worm card. So this means we can only have 2 vehicle cards under this worm card, and then 2 for this one, and 3 for this one. Next, you're going to resolve the played card, and these will be resolved in 3 steps. First, distraction, then perform actions, and then resolve special ability. So at the bottom of each vehicle card is a set of distraction symbols. Some of them may not have any, but this one does. This is an upward movement. So what you're going to do is we're going to be moving the 1 target token for this blaster worm and moving it by these symbols. So for the card we played, it had 1 movement up for the distraction, so you would just simply move the 1 target token up 1, and that is now the center location of the worm. Next is performing actions, and there are various actions you can do which all cost 1 point. So you can move 1 space, you can ramp another player, you can remove 1 adjacent rubble, pick up all the eggs, and deliver 1 egg. So like I just mentioned, all of the actions cost 1 point, and what I mean is action points. So each card that you will play, the vehicle card, has a number up here that shows the number of action points that you have available to spend. So this one, we could have 4 action points. Alright, so let's go over these actions. So the first one is moving 1 space orthogonally. So that means it can be here, here, here. Obviously there's not a space here. You just can't move diagonally. And you cannot move into a space that has rubble, so I could not move here. So I can move here or here in this example. And you can also move into or through a space where there's another player pawn, but you can't end your movement there. So for instance, if this was there, I could go 1 action point to move here, another action point to move here, so I didn't end my movement on this player pawn. Another thing you can do is spend 1 action point to ramp another player. So this will actually allow you to move 2 spaces, but for 1 action point. So in this example, let's say we have another player pawn there. So ramping just means you kind of ramp over the car onto the other location, but you have to be able to land into an empty adjacent space to the other player pawn. So I could ramp to here, and you can even change direction. So I could ramp to here as well, but obviously I couldn't ramp to here, or if this, let's put a rubble out here, if there was a rebel here, I could not ramp over to here because you cannot end on a rebel. For another action point, you can remove one rebel from a space adjacent to your pawn. So I could remove one of these rebels here. And if you did, you will put this on your leader character card. And if you ever were to collect 3 rebels, you would immediately turn them in and draw either a item or a weapon card from the supply. You can also spend another action point to pick up all eggs in a location you are at. So if you do pick up this egg, you'll put this in on your leader card, and you may carry any number of eggs. But after performing this action, you cannot perform any additional actions. Another action you can take is delivering one egg that you are carrying. Now, in order to deliver an egg, you must have an egg in your possession and be at a location spot across the board. If you deliver an egg without a bounty, you score 1 victory point and will take the victory point token from the supply as the reward and discard the egg that you had in your possession to the supply. However, if delivering an egg fulfills one of the bounty cards up here, then this is a way to possibly get more points. If you do it this way, then you won't take that extra victory point token, but you will get the victory points from the bounty card. So for instance, this delivery card is if you deliver this orange egg at the location of the state police, which is where we're at. So they delivered that orange egg, and so then they would get the 4 victory points from this card. Now it's important to note that you can only complete 1 bounty per egg. So if there are 2 bounties of the same type displayed up here, you can only do 1. Now also, whenever you deliver eggs, there are delivery bonuses depending on what location you are at. Now, no matter how many deliveries you complete in your turn, you only receive 1 delivery bonus per turn. So if you delivered an egg at the state police, then you would take a weapon card. If you delivered at the general store, you would take an item card. If you delivered at the motel, you would take 1 victory point token. If you delivered at the government facility, you would take either one of these bounty cards up here or the top one on the deck. And you will put the one that you chose, in your play area face down, and this will be a hidden one that only you can complete. And then you have the hospital, where you can bring a dead character in your squad back to life. So what you're going to do is you're going to flip the card face up and place it underneath your current leader card. So to sum up all of your actions, let's do an example. So we played this card here, so we have a total of 4 actions that we can take. So let's say that for our first one, we want to pick up a rebel from an adjacent space. So that's 1 action point. Then let's move here. That's 2 action points. Moving here, that's 3 action points. And for the last one, the 4th action point, we will pick up an egg and put this on our leader card. So after you distracted the worm, performed actions, you then will resolve the special ability on the vehicle card that you had played. So each card will have this little text here, and that's the special ability. So sometimes they can be negative and sometimes they can be positive. So this one is move any target token 2 spaces. So you could pick any target token and move it 2 spaces. So I will just simply pick this one and just go 1, 2. Also on your turn, you can play some cards that you have, item cards, weapon cards. So generally the item cards are going to be things that allow you to break the rules on your turn and possibly give you some victory points. The weapon cards are generally used to fight worms when they attack you. So after you resolve the card that you played, you will then go to the 3rd step on your turn, which is refilling your hand back to 3 cards. And then after that, you're going to check for the worm attack. So when checking for worm attacks at the end of your turn, you are going to see if there's the number of cards underneath a worm card that is the same as the lower right hand corner number. So this worm, the blaster, has a card limit of 2. And we have 2 cards here, so that means a worm will attack. So when resolving a worm attack, there are several steps that you need to follow. The first thing you need to do is check to see if there are any face down cards, which there are in this example. So then you will flip that card over, and then you will resolve the distraction, which is, like we mentioned earlier, moving the corresponding worm token over 2 left spaces. Next, you're going to place a matching color egg. So we chose the blaster which is a purple worm. So then you're going to grab a purple egg and place it on that corresponding target token. So this was a 1 worm token. So we will put the egg there. After you place the egg, you'll then put rubble out according to the shaded pattern they have on the worm card. So this one is just adjacent on these 4 spots. So you will place rubble out. So we put a rubble here. You'll put a rubble here. You can't put any more here because there's a max of 2. And you also cannot put any here because there's a max of 2. So that is putting out the rubble. After the worm attack has been fully resolved, you will remove that card that was just resolved, the worm, and discard it. And then you will put out a new worm in that location and put out that corresponding target token on the coordinates. So this would be 2 and 4, so you place it out there. So let's clarify a few things. So rubble and eggs can never be placed on locations. If an egg would be placed on a location, you're going to resolve all rubble as normal, and then you're going to roll both of these coordinate dice. So you would roll these and then place that egg on that location of coordinates. Now if rubble would be placed on a location, it's just simply not placed. Now if a player's pawn is in any space where rubble or eggs are added from the worm attack, they are caught in the attack. And that player's leader might die unless the worm can be defeated by using an item or other weapons and such. So if your pawn is caught in the worm's attack, then you have the opportunity to attack the worm with your weapons or item cards that you may have. So you'll just follow the instructions of any of these weapon or item cards you have, and if you cannot defeat the worm, then your top leader that you're using will die. So the worm's health is listed on the card with the heart symbol here, so Mrs. Tentacles would have a health of 4. If the combined total of damage dealt to the worm by all players caught in the attack is equal to or higher than the number on the card, so in this case 4, then you have defeated the worm. And the player that deals the killing blow receives credit for defeating that worm and receives 1 victory point token. However, if one of the bounty cards corresponds with one of the worms that you have defeated, so let's say we defeated Mrs. Tentacles, then you will get the victory points listed on that card. So for instance, there was a bounty card that was showing Mrs. Tentacles, and we defeated this, so we can get 4 victory points instead of the 1 victory point token if there was not a bounty card. Now if your leader was killed in the worm attack, you are going to lose a lot of the stuff that you have. So if your current leader was carrying any eggs or rubble, then you will lose those, and these will be placed on the spot on the board where your pawn is. And then if you have any weapon or items cards in association with this leader card, then you will lose those as well. And then you will flip your leader to the deceased side, and then you will choose which leader you want to use next. And on your next turn, you will take your pawn from the board and place it on an unoccupied location site. So players are just going to continue taking turns back and forth until 2 game-ending conditions. So the game ends immediately if a player ever reaches 20 victory points. And then if any player's entire squad is deceased, then they are out of the game, and the other players have 1 final turn, and after that, whoever has the most points is the winner. And it's important to note that at the back of the rulebook, there are some other options to player changes, advanced setup. You can use the other side of the board, which has a canyon, and there's also a solo mode as well. Alrighty guys, so that is how to play Terror Below, and can I just reiterate how awesome these worm eggs are? They're just so fun to play with. So anyway, let us know in the description below what you think about this game and if you have any questions. And as always, if you want to help us out, go ahead and subscribe to our channel and like this video. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching.